Hello, and welcome to the Art of Mindfulness. We are the House of Glitter plus the Glitter Goddess Collective. I'm Trent,
I'm Am.
and today we'll be talking about restoration. Um, to start it off, like how does restoration or rest, how is it important or how is it important for you? Um, like ways that it shows up, ways that it shows up and how important it is a part of our health. Um, and it's a part of how we can build on top of our rest and strengthen ourselves. Um, Basically, just like allowing yourself to fully rest and let your body just lay and gather everything it needs to fully recuperate itself. Because without you even letting it, without you letting it know that, hey, I need to heal myself, it automatically knows what to do when you're like not feeling good. If the body's not feeling well, it's like, okay, well, we need to just chill out and just let the process automatically fix itself. Because your body is functional and let you it when like even when you're breathing, you won't even have to like be aware that you're breathing. Just know that you are breathing, and then when you are, you're like, oh yeah, like I can breathe. But like when you're not aware of that, it's just a natural thing that just happens. It's a part of what you do, and you don't really question it. Just like how like you know when you're out doing a lot of things, working all day, and you come back home and you're like, yeah, I need to sleep, and you rest, and that's your body like fully healing itself for that process, and like building up on itself. Like, okay, we're healing, and like we're gonna come back even harder. Um, and it's like also good to like rest your muscles um, daily because you're using your muscles every day. You know what I mean? You're walking, lifting, running, typing, sitting, and all that requires a lot of work just to do those things. And you need to keep them, uh, keep them like a high priority and cherish them a lot because we use them every day and we gotta make sure they're all right so we can keep using them. And for the brain because it takes a lot of brain power. It takes a lot of energy to use our brains, and we need to rest our brains as well so we can have a fresh mind when we wake up. Because all the information we just deal with on that day is we're all processing and internalizing it to wake up the next day to refresh everything. Um, but yeah, another way how rest is important is just like how rest is centered, or you can like how you center your rest. Um, like I guess in one way, like how can you like take control or take initiative of your own rest, if that makes sense. Like having a healthy boundary with it and like exploring like different ways and how rest can be a healthy boundary in your life, and versus being like I only get like 2 hours of sleep, and it's just like okay, now I know why I'm always fatigued because I don't get enough rest for myself. How can I center my rest with myself? Um, did you want to say anything about that?
Yeah. Um, when there's in yoga teacher training, we learned about the nervous system and how there's the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system is like what they call rest and digest. So those two tend to go together. And so one way to center rest is to, I think a major way to center rest is just centering like your meals and being intentional about when you eat, because that's a space when you should be resting and not in a place of work.
Yeah.
It's not really good for your digestive system or for your blood, for your energy levels to take in food while you're in a place of like movement. So rest and digest should always kind of go together. You can think about them together. And with that, yeah, just thinking about ways that white supremacy shows up against rest. There's even something called the Nap Ministry, which is like a protest collective, I suppose, where like taking naps is a protest because our kind of the ways that we are educated into and like grow up in the United States is to not to center rest, but to center production, especially coming up in the education system you're told to be an individual, like centering individuality and getting things done on your own, and um, pumping out a product. Even for like work, at school, they're kind of setting you up to go to a work environment to just push out a product. And you might have worked in service industries before, where you're literally not allowed to eat or allowed to like allow customers to see you eating. It's usually against like a job's policy for you to even like pull out food and eat during your job, or to allow folks to see you during your job eating. So it's one of those things where, like, we don't center rest in our culture, in American culture. And so part of mindfulness is coming back to this idea that like healing and building strength and taking care of ourselves by resting, goes against white supremacy in a way. So think about, like, it makes us think about, especially as a House of Glitter, as a dance company, the Glitter Goddesses as an art collective. Every time we get together, we always think about food first. Have we all eaten? Do we feel rested enough before we get into our work? Otherwise, we're feeding into and like giving more power to that symptom of white supremacy that says that we need to continue to push through and not let ourselves rest and just like go, 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 go like slaves.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is true. Another way how rest can pop up for us or come up for us, or another way how we like to utilize rest is what's happening during your rest. Like in your process of rest, like what is happening for you. And everyone's different, and everyone's rest process is different. Depending on how you choose to practice that, some people has a schedule that's made for a night owl, so you won't see them during the day, but you'll see them active a lot at night, or vice versa. You see a lot of people who are more active during the day than you do at night, but there's a lot of people who are way active at night than they are during the day, because that's how they practice their sleep, based off of their profession, of what they like to choose, of what they choose to do. So like their rest may seem like for some people, like one of my friends, he sleeps like a good 12 hours during the day and gets up and goes to work at night. My schedule is different from his. I like to go to bed at like a reasonable time so I can wake up early morning to start my day early. So our schedules are like so different, and that's how we practice rest so differently. But we still find ways to make it work so we can meet up, even though our schedules are so separate. But that's an interesting concept to think about, because everyone's rest process is actually pretty different, and that's why it's just like, oh, like what are you doing? And well, I got this, this, but it's just like it all because it's like how much rest did you get, and you know what I mean, throughout your day, so to not make yourself as like crazy busy and stuff like that. Because when you feel rested, like it's just like you have a clearer head to execute what you need to do for the day, which then you can come back and have a smooth process of resting again, and your process of how you practice that. But yeah, everyone practices differently. Did you want to say anything about that?
No. It reminds me though about like what you were saying about like how getting enough rest is not something that, it's not a thought, it's not a thinking thing, it's a feeling.
Yeah.
And that's, it's different for everybody. Some people, I don't know if it's genetics or if it's our diet or whatever it is, or sometimes I imagine it's just like our passion and the way that our brains kind of like drive us to do what we have to do every day or want to do every day. That, for me at least, shifts how I rest or when I rest. But knowing when we get enough rest is more of a feeling.
This is true. You naturally just know when you need to rest. Well, unconsciously, you're not going to be like, I'm going to do all these things, and then I know my body's going to be like, I need to rest, because based off how your schedule is, your body might not even be tired. Your body might just be ready to keep going. And then when you soon as you wind down up here in your conscious, your body's like, okay, it's time for me to wind down now. Now I need to start, resting and processing and healing and getting you ready for the next couple hours after this.
You just have to be like mindful enough to be aware of that.
Yeah, and that's where the feeling of it comes from. Because then, like, even out of nowhere, like you feel like you have mad energy and you go to do something, you're like, whoa, like my body's like not responding the way I want it to. It's definitely doing something else right now. And it's like, that's because it's probably trying to get in rest mode, and it's like letting you know that this is what's happening. But it's just like, anytime you feel that way and you was caught off guard, like, oh, why do I feel like mad fatigue? Am I dehydrated? It's like, well, you could just be working your body to death or to the maximum, and it's ready to just like chill out and ready to do its thing. Unnaturally. But I feel like a lot of people is aware of the feeling when their body's like ready to like clock out. But it feels like it's up here, a mental thing, but it's really a whole body thing. Everything's just working together and sending signals. So how do we choose to rest and restore ourselves? Just like how I said before, everyone's process is different, especially when you're aware of how you want to rest and you can choose the way you want to rest. Whether that be like a scheduled rest based off of what your practice is, or just like in the practice of like seeing how far you can go in with your rest. Because there's a lot of people who study rest and go deeper into that process and beyond what we perceive to see as rest. But for me, like I said, like I like to go to bed at like a reasonable time, like the time frame between either 9 or like 11 o'clock, sometimes 12, depending on what I'm doing throughout my day. But I try to stay within that window of time frame to sleep, because then that hour process is like scheduled out for me to have enough hours and balance out my sleep, which then I will automatically wake up at the time I need to once my rest is complete. If I don't feel like my rest is complete, my body will let me stay. My body will let me know, and I'll just stay lying down for a little bit longer, as much as I need to, for my body to fully recover. And then I would naturally wake my body up, or it would just naturally be like, yep, we're done, and I can just get up and I'll feel it like, yep, okay, my body's done resting and it's ready to go.
That reminds me too of like that. That's a great example of how like in your full day, how we can be intentional with rest. And then there's even like in smaller instances, like if there's a thing that you have to do every day, or like you work or whatever it may be, like it could even be like if you work at a computer, like where is your intentional rest there? Like how do you set a timer for every hour and a half and say like every hour and a half I'm going to stand up and just like stretch my legs, stretch my fingers for a few minutes, and then go back at it. Like we think about when we're teaching classes, when we're teaching virtually or in person, like if it's more than 2 hours, we should give participants a few minutes to rest and get away from the screen or use the restroom. Sometimes people can power through and just like work and forget that they even have to use the restroom, or that their bodies are telling them to stretch, or whatever those physical responses are. Sometimes we're not even like open enough to listen to those things because we're so focused. So it's like a level of being focused on what we're doing, and also being mindful enough of taking care of our bodies to hear that calling.
Exactly.
When we need to rest.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, you're needed, and not even you, but the next person after you is going to be needed. Their full body is going to be needed, and you're going to need to bring your full self to that, to do what needs to be done in that workspace, whatever that is for you. And like, people be like, show full capacity, but it's just like, in order to do that, is you got to make sure you got to check in with yourself and see how you do your rest process, which then gives you like, your own energy to proceed with your day or whatever you need to get done. Because like, you go to work with only like 60% energy, you probably won't execute things exactly the way you want them to. And like, you already have someone over your neck who wants you to get something done exactly the way they want you to get it done. So if you can't get it done, if you can't execute it the way you want to get it done, you know what I'm saying? It's like, then it's messing with your stuff. You know what I mean? Then it clashes with what you do. And it's like, oh, why is it happening? But it all goes back to you being in your full body and letting your body do exactly what you need to do, so you can have that full rest. And rest can show up in many different forms for you. It does not only have to be just sleeping. It can be different practices on how you rest your body. It's just coming back to the body and making sure you have everything you need for proceeding out into the world. Um, because it's a lot of work taking care of yourself. You know what I mean? It's just like you're still discovering stuff with yourself as you go along every day. You know what I mean? So you already know how it is to take care of yourself in some way. But if you don't truly know, once you have a child, then you know because you're taking care of someone else and you're putting that energy into that person. And then you start to realize, like, oh, it's the same process of me. This is basically me in a way. So it's just like, yes, and then you go, then it puts you in that mindset, like, oh, I need to make sure my energy and my rest is like up there for this person, and that's how the same energy should be for you at the same time. You know what I mean? You should have that same energy towards yourself, like if you were to a child or your own child. And like I said before, like getting enough rest is more just like a feeling. It's just a natural, intuitive feeling. It's like I feel like a lot of humans, all humans have that, like majority of all humans have that like feeling inside of their body when they know they're like, you know, when you're fully fatigued. You ever ran around so much as a kid and you felt like so out of breath and you couldn't breathe, fully fatigued? Like kind of a similar metaphor when it's like if you're working constantly and you're like mentally drained and fatigued and you're like, I need a break, like I need to like cool out my engines and my thought processes and stuff. Like that is a part of rest as well, like taking a break, stepping away, doing what you need to do, like I'm saying, like taking a stretch break, maybe taking a fresh air break, whatever it means for you, what you need to do to recuperate and get yourself back into the process of your own restoration. So rest can be very difficult for a lot of people because some people, not some people, but like for a lot of people, rest is like, depending on what the situation is, it can be complicated for people to actually make that happen for themselves the way they want to. And it's like, oh, like, well, I have this, I have these things, and I have kids, and I have all this stuff, and I don't have enough time for me to just rest and chill and, you know, recuperate. And I'm running on just low energy to make sure everything gets done the way I need to get done, and I don't have enough time to rest. Or if you're like caught in a situation where it's like, dang, I don't have enough time to get rest because I have to be over here at this time, then I'll go over here, and I have to run back over here and do this, and I have to do my laundry. So it's just like coming back to the self, having like calming the body down, resting the mind, putting everything at ease as much as you can. And if you're not in this space of being full with yourself in that calm space, because now you're just resting your body fully, if you can't be able to just settle down yourself and rest for a second and really like let yourself sit there and achieve that rest so you can be able to have that energy to go complete your daily tasks that you have throughout your day. And if that's able to be achieved, then, you know, rest is there. That's what it is. You achieved your rest. You achieved some type of practice for your rest. It's just a matter of sticking to it in a way that's healthy for you. And sometimes things might change up on you, which then we have to change up the process now. It's time to either change up a bit where it can benefit you in different ways, because nothing lasts forever. So when things change, you just got to be flexible and be able to change along with that. Are there anything you want to say on those things?
Mm-hmm. I think the last thing we wanted to mention was just the poses that we see in restorative flow, and like why those poses are restorative.
Work. So yeah, poses like you see, like child's pose or like savasana. I feel like down dog is one of those poses too. I feel like that's a comfortable pose. Like once you stack yourself in there, it's just a nice place to be. The reason why these moves are so resourceful is because they're so restful. You can just lie and really not do anything. Like in a downward facing dog, for some, it might seem like, no, this is too much for me to like be in here. But like the more you do it and the more it feels nice in your body, you'll just naturally have like a stacked downward facing dog, which then puts you in a comfortable state where you could just really just stack your limbs and just rest there. without any problem. Like your limbs are supporting you, you're fine, you're there.
Mm-hmm.
You can just rest in that pose. Shavasana.
I was gonna say it's funny because it does take that level of like support. You need to set up support for yourself first, and there needs to be like a little bit of strength. Like a baby might not be able to do downward dog in the same way like a teen or adult might be able to do them.
This is true.
So it's a metaphor as well, like in how in life, like you do need a little bit of strength and you need the support as well in order to give yourself the rest that you need.
Exactly. There's nothing wrong with asking for support or giving yourself some support. Nothing wrong with that. And Shavasana, you're just lying down, corpse pose, no work necessary, but you're breathing, and you have support with the mat and the earth under you, supporting your whole weight, lifting you up. And you're fully in exactly what it is. Your corpse pose. You're letting your whole body rest in this position. This is the position that you came through with, and this position that you end with. In some cases. But yeah, just letting your body fully recuperate, just like if you were sleeping. Your body's fully recuperating even as you lie there. It's fully resting through the process that you just gave it. And downward facing dog, child's pose, different versions of child's pose. Like just going to child's pose in general feels nice. It's good on the hips. You can just rest in that position there and just sit there for as long as you need, especially with support. If you're supported in child's pose with a lot of props, pillows, blankets, you can rest there as long as you want. You can fall asleep there. You can lie there as long as you want. Or even in Shavasana, you can add pillows and props under your thighs, under your neck, under your back. You can lay there as much as you need to as well, just like you were sleeping. But these positions are definitely restful just to hop into. Anytime you feel like you need some rest in any physical practice, those are always good poses to go back to. For the downward facing dog, I say lean into that position more and more until it's definitely comfortable in your body to where you can just let yourself be stacked in there, either with props or no props, but feeling good in your body to where you can just sit there and just let your body rest and let it do its thing. And just being mindful of how you stack yourself, your breathing patterns. And yeah.
There was one more thing I wanted to mention about restorative asana flow quick before we jump into journal prompts. Like I noticed when because you offer restorative and like grounding flows often, and like something that you offer as like a reminder often is like breathing into your stretch. And like that's not the case for all poses. Like a lot of times you'll hear yoga teachers say like breathe into the sensation or breathe into this like pose. But in restorative, like you're breathing into the stretch, because a lot of times restorative poses like forward fold or like just like folding over like a leg for your hamstrings, whatever it is, like you're in that pose not to build strength and you're really not building anything. You're just allowing your weight to let go in a lot of cases. In those restorative poses where you can like send the breath into wherever there's tension, and when there is tension, just like stretching it out allows that muscle to rest a little bit, because often we're like contracting in parts of our bodies that we don't really know that we are, especially like the hamstrings and the hips. So when we go into child's pose and we're just resting there, like breathing into like those muscles that are stretching, or like forward folding and just breathing into like the muscles in your hamstrings that are tense and need to be like loosened up a little bit to get that rest. So we'll definitely have like a little bit of a shorter asana flow, but I guess as we do journal prompts, folks who are participating can just pause the video between our questions and journal as long as you need to, as long as you want to. Whenever you run out of thoughts, you can hit play again.
The first question for journal prompts is, what does rest mean to you? The second question is, what ways do you practice rest? And the third question, how do you plan to rest today? So taking this time to pause the video and answer these questions Take as much time as you need, and we'll be right here. Literally, we'll be paused.
All right. Let's flow. Maybe get yourself to like here. Good.
So finding your way to your mat or your blanket on the floor. If you have any pillows or props you like to use to support your knees, your sits bones, but getting comfy in your seated position. Spine reaching nice and tall, crown of the head reaching nice and long. Being mindful of the breath. And with every inhale and exhale, engaging with the belly. Inhaling energy that's going to serve you, your body. Exhaling the energy that won't. And slowly with control, rolling the head all the way around. Doesn't matter what side you start with. Feeling the sensations in your neck. Breathing through these stretches here. Being mindful of the breath. I notice sometimes we tend to hold our breath when we stretch sometimes. Unconsciously, we just naturally do it. So I want to challenge you to bring awareness to that. And you can also rotate your head towards the other direction. And slowly with control, bringing your rotation back to center. And we're just gently going to roll the shoulders back, opening up the chest, opening up the throat. And slowly bringing your rotation to stillness. We're just going to reach the arms out in front of us long, and we're just going to rotate the wrist. And reverse your rotation, going the other direction. Feeling any sensations here. Placing the palm to the floor, forearms facing out, fingers facing us. Giving the forearms a nice stretch here. Feel free to add some heat to the forearms to ease up on the tension. And flipping the palms over, fingers facing us, forearms facing us as well. And we're just going to open and close the palms to pulsate the wrists. Waking up the palms, waking up the wrists, getting that blood flowing. And we're going to flip the palms, giving the forearms a nice little stretch one last time. Then we're going to release the palms from the floor, give the wrist a little shake. And from here, we're going to make our way into our downward facing dog. So planting the palms into the mat, tucking the back toes. We're going to push our hips up and back. Taking in our downward facing dog here. Feel free to give yourself a nice pedal on your feet, slight arch in your knees. And slowly with control, we're just going to lower our knees towards the floor. And from here, we're going to make our way into your child's pose. So get into the child's pose that feels comfortable. This feels comfortable for your body. And slowly with control. When you're ready, we're going to tuck the back toes once more. Push our hips up and back. Turn to the downward facing dog. Feeling the limbs stacked on top of each other. Be mindful of the breath here. And from here, we're just going to slowly lean forward, moving into plank. Feeling strong here, engaging with the core. And we're slowly, with control, going to lower down to the floor or your mat. And once you reach the floor, you can release your limbs into the floor. And from here, you can either stay laying here on your belly, or you can roll over to your back. Vrkshavasana. wiggling the fingers, wiggling the toes, bringing some slight movement back to the body. And when you're ready, rolling over to the right or left side for a moment of comfort before pushing up into our seated positions. From here, we can place both of our palms on top of the knees, to heart center, or place both palms on top of the heart. A breath to thank yourself for your practice today. Breathing in and out. A breath to thank others for their support and love. Breathing in and out. A breath for the ancestors who came before us and the indigenous people who was on this land before us. Breathing in and out. And this last breath can be for your intention of how you want to practice your rest. Breathing in and out. The human in me bows down to the human in all of you. Namaste. Y'all. All right, y'all. Lay it is